Welcome to Trial by Wine. We take a closer look at crimes that highlight how fascinating humans can be. Schmitty, Swanee and Clarky visit crimes and run them through their jury of three, debating both sides of the case to agree an appropriate, if totally fictitious, sentence. Please be advised, Trial by Wine may include explicit or disturbing content and will include drunken rambling. Listener discretion is advised.
Pizzle.
So apparently, Pizzle and bully sticks already exist. They are a bag of dicks for dogs.
Oh, but they're big. I don't think Arthur could get through one of those. I think we could work on a smaller,
smaller animals,
a more sort of manageable
Not all dogs
bag
like
of dicks.
the same dick.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And it's very rude to assume that they do, Schmitty.
I wasn't saying it. I was just saying that they
So
already
ignorant.
existed.
So ignorant.
I just looked up that they even exist, just to prove my ignorance.
Different strokes for different folks, Same with
Yeah.
the dogs.
Different dicks for different dogs.
Not everybody wants a bully stick.
I normally would cut our preamble pre the all right, are you? But I think I might leave that one in. Anyway, all right, how are we?
Wonderful.
Very well, very well. Sorry, I'm just having a quick snack in between.
Paul and Stuart are eating their
episodes.
dinner. Yeah.
It's not a bag of dicks to carry on from the last one.
Is it a pizzle or a bully stick?
Pino's on the bag
It's
of dicks.
not.
It's beef.
No, it's something much healthier, much more
It's a different
tolerable.
cut of the animal.
It's just a different cut. I like that. Shit.
It's different
But
cut.
that can be part of it's just a different cut.
Yeah, maybe that's our marketing campaign.
Yeah.
It's a
Bag of
different
dicks.
cut.
Bag of dicks for dogs. It's
Just
just
a
another. It's just
different
another
cut.
cut. It's just a different cut. Don't have to get all
if
funny
you
about
eat
it.
necks, you eat tails. Like it's
Yes.
nose to tail, right?
It's nose to tail dining.
And when you go nose to tail, there's a dick there somewhere, isn't there?
Exactly. And I think
Not
that
just
we're
on
missing.
I'm a celebrity, get me out of here.
Exactly.
I think if you were to draw a line from nose to tail, to be fair, there's probably no dick there, but this is
No,
the
don't they
other
call
white meat or something.
prairie oysters, aren't they?
The other white
testicles
meat.
or something?
The other white meat.
The Sada Abo white meat.
Oh, it makes me think of, what do they call them? Asada ribs or something?
I don't
Every
know.
time I see that word, I
Dick
think
ribs.
it's like Asada ribs or something. I think
What's
of
that?
Asada Abe.
You think of her a lot. She doesn't she, Clarky? Not that you think. I think of Sarah. It's like, what doesn't prompt you to think about Sarah Abe at this point?
If you ever see her walking around with a rolled up newspaper, wonder
Asada
what's in
rib.
there. Check.
Asada rib, a technique for cutting meat to be grilled over hot charcoal. So Sada Abe missed a trick. She went around with it
Grilling
just
meat.
raw. A battered sav. That's what I was thinking about, battered sav. Anyway, have we any news?
No.
No.
No, I do not. No, I
None
do
other
not.
than to say that the bag of dicks plan that Swanee had has already been usurped.
Well, yes, but not necessarily pigs or goats or sheep or anything. I mean,
No,
I've
just
I've
needs a
come
bit more
across beef.
reworking.
Yeah. We have to brainstorm that one.
We just need to do something that's a bit more.
Did you say
niche,
you've
I
come
think.
across beef, Schmitty?
Pizzle and bully beef are apparently penises.
As I said, I just don't think they're appropriate for Arthur. I think we need something a bit more manageable for him.
Well, it's only a small boy.
You want a classy
Exactly.
dick for your dog, not
I think that's what we'll call it. Small boy. I like that.
So, shall we introduce ourselves? I'm Schmitty.
I'm Swanee. Excuse me.
and I'm
Sorry.
Clarky. And together we are
Trial by Wine.
And what are we drinking?
Sparkling mineral water.
Beautiful. And it's
Aqua
real
Minerale.
San Pellegrino. It's not a Santa Vittoria.
No, it is. It's not. It's a smaller bottle.
Oh.
Still
it
poor
doesn't look like a
cousin. I'm
gourd
on
from
a 750 ml. They had run out of the whatever the other one, 1.75 litre.
1.5 metres or whatever it was.
meters.
Litres.
They didn't have it. They had to get these smaller ones. So yes,
Oh, right, because
That's
the other
why.
as we did the monkey magic joke last time. Yeah.
I think that the other ones have become so popular on the back of our podcast that they've sold out.
The old 5
So
They would like
the
to
Santa
sponsor
Vittoria
us.
people will no doubt be aware of where their sales are coming from. I'm sure we'll be hearing from them any day.
any day to sponsor us. That's right. And Clarky, what are you drinking? Still on the Red Claw?
We're on the Red Claw, yes. We took a bit of a pause during the last half of the last episode, and so now we can enjoy the rest of the bottle.
Oh, well done you. I'm still on the Ara Sauvignon Blanc, but I'm on the last glass of it because I did not take a pause. So let's see how this one goes. Clarky, do you have something to tell us?
As in a story or something else?
As in a story.
Yeah, I do.
Not a great revelation.
I'm not ready to out myself as a bag of dicks for dogs either. So I'm going to tell you a story. I am denied about how to go about telling you this. The reason being, it's the story of James Gargasoulis, who you may or may not know, but he is the one who committed the Bourke Street Massacre.
What is it with you with horrific Victorian crimes lately? I just edited your awful Hoddle Street Massacre, and now you're doing another one.
It wasn't my massacre, just to be clear. It wasn't my awful Hoddle Street Massacre. I feel like someone else did it.
I know you didn't do it. You didn't perpetrate it.
Anyway, well, thank you for that reaction, but this is the story that is less about the actual massacre and more about the lead up to the event. So the massacre itself was horrible, and towards the end of the story, I'll tell you a little bit about what happened in the massacre for people who don't know the story. But what happened in the lead up to it is quite remarkable. Firstly, my sources are ABC, Wikipedia, Narelle Fraser Interviews podcast, and a great article in the ABC that was written by Louise Milligan, Genevieve McGregor, and Lucy Carter for Four Corners. So James Gargasoulis grew up in Coober Pedy, South Australia. Even then, he was different to other kids. Some called him crazy and others picked on him. One of his former classmates said that he was just an eccentric sort of crazy kid and that's why he was a target. One day, he decided he'd have enough and was going to do something about it. A week later, his school was shut down as he smuggled explosives in. Thankfully, they were not detonated and no one was hurt. So, yeah, going back quite a way, he was smuggling explosives into school. Anyway, he had a brother, Angelo, and they were both raised by their single father. Angelo says it was a tough childhood. He said Jimmy was a special kid with an intellectual disability that meant he had to do special ed classes. Things got worse when he started smoking weed with his mates and stealing his dad's car. By the time he was in his 20s, he was using ice, and according to his friends, he was selling marijuana, ice, and anything else he could get his hands on.
Jesus.
One of his friends remembers a conversation in which Jimmy asked if he could ever kill someone, to which Jimmy replied he'd have no problem. Angelo says that his brother was particularly violent towards women. I've seen him drop a woman to the floor, drag her by the hair, knock a woman unconscious completely, is what Angelo said. In May 2016, Gargasoulis deliberately crashed his car into his girlfriend's car because he thought she was cheating on him.
Sometimes I know we live in a world, but just riddle me how you'll put a dog down because you know it's savage and it's going to hurt people, and yet we have almost no means now. We don't institutionalize people anymore unless they get arrested. You can't take them away from society when they're a danger.
You've clocked the theme of this story quite early, Schmitty.
I don't know what the answer is, but there's got to be something. And I'm not saying put a person down, but put them in a safe environment for themselves and other people.
Wait till you've heard the full extent of this and then discuss.
Mm.
In late 2016, James moved to Melbourne. By this stage, his criminal record was 20 pages long and included driving whilst disqualified, reckless conduct causing injury, affray, assaulting police, resisting police, and escaping custody. On the 19th of October 2016, when his girlfriend was 19 weeks pregnant, James had an outburst whilst they were driving, accusing her of cheating. She later told police, "He punched me with his clenched right fist in my left eye. It felt like he then tried to eye gouge me. I don't know how many times he punched me in the face. I was so scared. He was punching me with both fists." In a separate confrontation with his brother Angelo in St Kilda, James hit him with a gun and then threw a tyre iron, smashing a taxi window. Police chased him that night with sirens blaring, but he sped off onto the wrong side of a major Melbourne road, forcing police to give up the pursuit. Just before Christmas, police received another warning about Gargasoulis after he picked up a street sex worker and told her he had a gun. She spoke to Four Corners anonymously. He was driving very erratically, almost hit a car, almost hit a tree as he swung into a side street, she said. He cut into traffic just driving like an absolute maniac. And that's when I realised it was probably ice that he was on and my own safety was at risk.
Mm-hmm.
He boasted to me that he had run from police the night before on 3 occasions and they had engaged in a chase on 3 occasions. And he said each time he was able to get away because he knew if he drove on the wrong side of the street or aimed at people, they had to disengage the pursuit.
Yep.
She made an excuse to get out of the car, took down his license plate and called police. A sergeant was sent to see her, but no action was taken. On January 14, 2017, police were called to Gargasoulis's mother's apartment, where he'd been threatening her where he'd been threatening her and brandishing a knife. He was arrested and taken to St Kilda Police Station, where he joked around with officers as they listed the 23 charges he was facing. In a police video from the night, Gargasoulis sounded paranoid and delusional as he answered the officers' questions. Gargasoulis was charged with 23 offences and police opposed bail. But because it was after hours, a volunteer bail justice was called to decide whether or not he should be released. Now get this. Victoria is the only state that uses volunteers without legal qualifications to hear bail applications. This one was a teacher, and in a decision that shocked police, he decided to grant Gargasoulis bail, not trying to shame the poor person who was volunteering.
He made a bad decision, but also, why was he even there?
Has no experience in this. Yeah. Like,
what?
Anyway, so Victoria is the only state that allows that.
But why wasn't it a magistrate?
Well, because Victoria doesn't need that.
Because they're busy.
Who knows? Anyway.
Oh, weird.
Apparently the statement of the bail justice from that night, in which he claims police did not discuss Gargasoulis's escalating mental health problems and failed to provide his 20-page criminal history. So they're saying that the police didn't provide enough information on the history of Gargasoulis, and that's why he was granted bail. Anyway, so he's back out on the street. The police did contradict some of the bail justice's account. They argued strongly against the granting of bail. The Gargasoulis case would eventually prompt a review by retired Judge Paul Coghlan into the bail system. One of his recommendations would there be a separate inquiry into the bail justice system itself. And we've probably heard a lot of that recently or in the last few years in Victoria. Anyway, Senior Constable Gentner was certain Gargasoulis would reoffend. He'd already emailed his bosses telling them so, and again he raised his concerns with his superiors, recommending a discreet probe into the bail justice. That same day, Gargasoulis went to St Francis Catholic Church in central Melbourne, where he spoke to Father Graham Duro in Churchyard. What's that? He said, "I really want to talk to you about a revelation I've had from God." Here we go. The world is going to end in a month's time, or sometime next month, Father Giro recalled. His eyes were quite piercing, and he did say at some stage to me, "Look into my eyes when I speak to you."
Look into my eyes, not around my eyes, look into my eyes.
Into my eyes.
You need a word to do that.
You're back in the room.
I turned to go back into the monastery and he made a comment that I can't quite recall the exact words, but I think it was something along the line of, "Look at you, you're a disgrace, you're the devil." Gargasoulis then entered the church and began to rant from the pulpit about terrorists. Police were called and they came and spoke to Gargasoulis, but he soon took off. When they ran a name check, they were told he was not wanted for any outstanding warrants, and so they did not pursue him. 4 hours later, police were called once again, this time to the unit block where Gargasoulis' mother lived. Once there, Angelo says Gargasoulis asked his mother's boyfriend, Gavin Wilson, if he could have his car keys, but when Mr. Wilson refused, Gargasoulis attacked him, setting fire to a Bible, smashing it in Mr. Wilson's face, and trying to gouge out his eyes. And there's actually some pictures of it. It looks pretty horrific of Mr. Wilson's face. Before police arrived, Gargasoulis sped off in Mr. Wilson's maroon Commodore. This was the car he would ultimately drive all the way to Bourke Street in Melbourne CBD, but more of that later. On the 18th of January 2017, Gargasoulis called 000 repeatedly. Operator, here's a bit of a transcript. Operator, hello caller, what address do you need police to attend? Gargasoulis, I don't need an address. I want to make a state emergency that, a worldwide emergency, that there's a comet in the sky and that NASA should take a look at that because it's going to hit the Earth. He'd been using large quantities of ice and was in the grip of a drug-induced psychosis. Probably telling you what you already suspected.
Yeah.
He went on to say, they're trying to kill me so my brother can rule the world after this is fucking hit. And all the rich people will go underground and blah, 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 fucking work that out, you dumb fuck. Well, you're not dumb. You need to fucking understand what the fuck is really going on. Why do you think the world is fucked up? Why do you think there's all lies and deceiving? Yeah, I'll be dead after this. And hopefully not. Operator. Why will you be dead, James? Gargasaurus. Why? Because the comet will take me out because I have no safety. Excellent use of
Grammar?
O resources. Well, and also grammar and the whole English language. Just after 1 a.m., Gargasaurus went back to his mother's apartment with his new girlfriend. Angelo was there.
I love it. He can find a girlfriend.
It's just
so
about to
typical,
say,
isn't it?
how does he even have a girlfriend? He's a psycho on drugs.
Did the other girlfriend have a baby?
Did the girlfriend have a
Did
drug
you deliver?
problem?
I'm guessing so, probably.
Yeah, she did.
Right.
She did.
Have a baby? Sorry, which question were you answering?
The one that he punched. Sorry.
She did have a baby, yes.
She did. The other one had
the
baby.
one he punched. And is this the same girlfriend who's now...
This is a new girlfriend.
Well, this one says new girlfriend, so I'm assuming not, but, you know.
I don't get it. Oh.
So Angelo was there. He started asking me questions about how much I knew about the comet that's coming to hit Earth and how much I knew about the bunkers and where they are and why I'm not telling him where they are. And if I don't tell him, we're all going to die, he said. It's a lot. A lot of meth.
I don't think it'd be very pleasant when he arrives at the house. I think everyone might be a little bit on
edge.
High alert. Yeah. Oh no. James has returned.
Swanee, hold my beer.
Oh.
Just after 2 a.m., Gargasaurus and Angelo walked out of the apartment. As they reached the gate, Gargasaurus pulled out a large kitchen knife.
Oh, Jesus.
Angelo recalls, I saw my brother coming and basically just go it at me. And I remember losing consciousness and my head was against the front of the car tyre and the horn was going like crazy, he said. I realised my lung has been stabbed and at this point I didn't realise the knife had gone right through.
Oh, my God.
But my lung was making a blow-off kind of sound.
Yeah, it was punctured, yeah.
He picked up the knife again and picked me up by the scruff of the hair and just went at it like a pineapple.
Fucking hell.
For the fourth time in 9 hours,
amazing he survived.
Police were called, but by the time they arrived at the apartment, Gargasaurus had fled. Angelo was rushed to hospital and placed in an induced coma. At 4:30 a.m., a sergeant urgently requested help from the Critical Incident Response Team, CIRT, emphasising how dangerous Gargasaurus was. The sergeant later told the homicide squad that the CIRT team refused to attend as the case did not fit the criteria.
What was the criteria?
I didn't have the criteria, but clearly it's got to be much worse than this. I expressed my dismay to the response I received, the sergeant said in his statement. He was told there was nothing they could do about it. That morning, Gargasaurus was due to face court. The stabbing of his brother and the subsequent manhunt had made the news.
Support these people. There's nowhere to take them to make them safe and support them. It's hospitals and then they're released.
Angelo was fighting for life as Gargasaurus drove up behind the Channel 9 crew reporting on the assault. He says, that's me they're looking for. Later that day, Gargasaurus was driving through South Melbourne.
Is it me you're looking for?
Jesus,
like,
it's awful.
It's so bad. Why is he not in jail or at least contained?
So now he's driving through South Melbourne, still in the car he'd stolen from his mother's boyfriend, when he realised police were following him.
Fuck, I'd hope so.
He'd kidnapped his girlfriend who was begging him to stop. He pulled over, but as the officers got out of their car, he accelerated rapidly. He told his girlfriend, if they catch up to me, I'm going to run down everyone in the city.
Oh, God.
By this stage, a critical incident response team did manage to catch up with him, and officers approached with firearms drawn. but he pushed his girlfriend out onto the road and escaped again. In keeping with Victoria Police pursuits policy, a local sergeant ordered members not to chase or intercept his car and to maintain covert observations from a safe distance. Greg Davies was the Victims of Crime Commissioner at the time of Gargasoulis's rampage and was also a former police association boss. He says too often police on the ground are left powerless.
Yeah.
So he goes on to say, I think James Gargasoulis and subsequent incidents are the inevitable result of 20 years of pushing decision-making from the geographical location of incident that's occurring in front of people who are witnessing it, all the way up to someone in an office somewhere else miles
an
away
ivory
from where
fucking
it's
tower
happening.
who has no idea and says, no, just monitor. Yeah.
Yeah. And like I think of that in the workplace where if I've had bosses before who are in another location and you try to explain to them what's going on in your area, your region or whatever, and they literally have no concept of it, and none of it is trying to manage extreme criminal behavior. I would hate to think what that must be like for the people on the ground. Would be impossible. You couldn't possibly
There has
do
to
it
be some
in a
kind
way
of
that would help them make it the right decision.
adjustment for delegation and protections for people who take a decision that says, on the day when I was there, I decided this is the right thing to do based on all these policies and blah, 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 and not leave it to a young constable, but, a sergeant or someone who with, whatever experience to say, we've got to intercept this person.
So by midday, Senior Constable Gentner was on Gargasoulis's tail and sent him a text message. And Gargasoulis says, I've calculated my options. I either die in jail or die trying to run from the boys. I'm telling you, I'm the saviour and there is a comet and I know how to save everything and everyone. But these guys are pretty good at making me look like I'm the devil.
Fucked on drugs.
After again losing his police tail, Gargasoulis stopped at a building site in suburban Yarraville where he attracted the attention of contractor Trent Schmidt.
No relation.
Excuse me. Mr. Schmidt was so concerned by Gargasoulis's behaviour, he dialed 000.
Good on him.
Operator, emergency services. Thank you, Telstra. Hello, where do you need the police? Mr. Schmidt. Drew Street, Yarraville? There's a guy, he's sitting in the car. We were doing some work there. He's babbling on about the end of the world and operator, right, so possible mental health? Or he's on drugs? Or Mr. Schmidt,
All of the above.
either or. Operator, what does he look like? Mr. Schmidt. He actually looks a bit like Nick Kyrgios.
It does actually, yeah.
Probably mid-20s, early 30s.
I don't think he is Nick Kyrgios, but he looks a bit like him.
No. yeah. Operator, I'll let the police know. We'll get the police there as soon as possible. The police helicopter was sent. But before officers on the ground could arrive to intercept him, Gargasoulis sped away again. Gargasoulis made his way into the CBD and was continuing to text with Senior Constable Gentner.
He can drive and text at that speed. It's insane.
Well,
he's not even making spelling mistakes.
I'm not talking lies. This is real. I can tell the future, my friend. I have the knowledge.
Speak with text.
Over an hour and 19 minutes, the detective and fugitive texted 33 times, with Senior Constable Gentner repeatedly asking him to pull over. By now, Gargasoulis was doing burnouts in the heart of Melbourne, in front of Federation Square.
Yeah.
Dozens of videos of his antics would soon be uploaded to social media. Senior Constable Gentner's final text messages to Gargasoulis were ignored. And this is what he said. Don't do this. Meet me. Stop doing this. Stop.
This is awful.
With police tailing him, Gargasoulis kept driving down Swanston Street. And for those who don't know Melbourne, Swanston Street is like the main street that goes straight through the centre of the city, connecting the south to the north. Picking up pace and mounting the footpath, he screeched around the corner into the Bourke Street Mall. Now, I won't go into the detail of what happened next because it's horrific, other than to say that what happened has become known as the Bourke Street Massacre. In 55 seconds, Gargasoulis hit 33 people, killing 6 of them, including a 10-year-old girl. He was apprehended by police after being tasered and shot. On Monday, the 23rd of January, Gargasoulis was interviewed by the Homicide Squad and subsequently charged with 5 counts of murder at
Did he
the Melbourne
survive?
Magistrates Court.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Yeah, not shot dead, just shot. Yep.
Oh.
His defence lawyer advised the court that he was too unwell to be present in the courtroom, with the magistrate excusing him from having to be present for future hearings due to his health, remanding him into custody. In April and May 2017, at the Melbourne Magistrates Court, Gargasoulis made claims such as, "Muslim faith is the correct faith according to the whole world. I am the saviour. I was under extreme stress, which caused me to have a mental breakdown. Life is being controlled by the government, and I'm very saddened by everything that's happened, but it's due to the Illuminati." In December 2017, Gargasoulis pleaded not guilty to 39 charges, including 6 counts of murder, and waived his right to a committal hearing in the Magistrates Court and was therefore committed to stand trial in the Supreme Court. In March 2018, Gargasoulis pleaded not guilty to all charges in the Supreme Court. His defence lawyers made a submission that given his current mental state, he was unfit to stand trial and advised the court that they were awaiting further medical reports. Justice Lasry criticised the 3-month delay in holding a hearing to determine his fitness. In June 2018, a Supreme Court was impanelled to decide if Gargasoulis was fit to stand trial. In October 2018, the Supreme Court jury found Gargasoulis was fit to stand trial despite being diagnosed a paranoid schizophrenic. At the trial, he was given the opportunity to apologise to his victims, and he chose to read out this letter. "To all victims of the 20th of January 2017, I apologise from my heart for taking the lives of your loved ones. I know my apology is not going to fix what I've done, not even a lengthy jail sentence. I didn't think my life would turn out like this. I can't imagine the pain you're going through. I also apologise to all of the many injured by my driving. I'm deeply ashamed of what I've done. I must say it is a tragic day for all of you and myself. If only we could go back in time, I would change it all. What I want you to know is I'm a victim of government oppression. It's because of oppression 6 people died and many were injured." Yep.
Statement, yeah.
"Oppression is the worst thing ever. Oppression is the root cause of terrorism and crime. Oppression is associated with government, which the government should take responsibility for all terrorism and crime."
Mm-hmm.
Imagine being in that trial. You did listen to the first bit and go, "Oh, this sounds okay." And then you listen to the last bit and go, "It's not, far out." In November 2018, Gargasoulis was found guilty of 6 counts of murder and 27 counts of reckless conduct endangering lives because there were 27 people who were injured.
It's horrendous.
He was sentenced to life in prison with a non-parole period of 46 years. Within days of the incident, it was announced that a review of Victoria's bail laws would be undertaken and that the Magistrates Court would introduce a night court to hear bail requests over weekends and after hours rather than a school teacher. In February 2017...
what's it got to do with it? Oh, right, yeah. We won't have school.
Yeah.
Do bails.
We'll actually get someone who knows what they're talking about, who's experienced in this stuff to...
You can make a correct judgment and be held accountable for it.
Which will bring Victoria back in line with every other state in Australia.
How could you actually hold a school teacher accountable for that decition either? Like,
imagine
you know what I mean?
The poor teacher who was involved in that and then had all of this play out.
Rocked up for my 4 hours of, $30 an hour or whatever, and then the next thing I know, I've inadvertently bailed someone who's killed 6 people and injured 27 others. And I'm just a school teacher, I'm not actually a magistrate.
I teach kids.
Don't do drugs.
In February 2017,
that's what I teach kids.
The magistrate...
Don't do drugs, okay?
Are bad, okay?
They're bad, okay?
In February 2017, the Magistrates Court established a night court at Melbourne Magistrates Court operating between the hours of 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. 7 days a week.
So basically we just filled that gap and we didn't put volunteers in the space anymore.
Correct. Yep. So that was to hear Melbourne Metropolitan bail and remand cases.
Yeah, good.
Following a review by Paul Coghlan QC in 2017, the Bail Act 1977 was amended in 2018 to make it harder for serious and violent offenders to be granted bail, to provide senior police officers with the power to remand a person in custody for up to 48 hours,
Forever.
and to revise the test for determining whether to grant bail. That is the end of my story.
I'm just horrified by the whole thing. And, you know, if you go back to the 90s when we decided to deinstitutionalise things, I must admit I've never been comfortable with that decision, because what we said is, let's do care in the community. Let's put people with really serious mental illnesses in the community and make it the community's responsibility to deal with them, whether or not they're equipped to do so. Here's a case in point about someone who clearly had a mental health issue, who would have done better surrounded by people who are experts in the field, taken away from, and I'm sorry, I'm very comfortable with this, assuming there's no abuse, etc., that people who are dangerous to the community, who are not necessarily committing a crime. So, like, if you go and deal with anything in our corrections right now, the number of people who have got mental health issues that our corrections institutes are asked to deal with, it was a money-saving exercise in the 90s, and it's still a money-saving thing. Let's divulge all of the responsibility into the community and to charities and to organizations that have to deal with that, instead of saying, you know what, some people actually just need to have a bit of hospital time. And by hospital, I don't mean the Royal Melbourne Hospital. I mean a proper psychiatric institution.
Swanee, what do you reckon?
I remember it, of course, but I was thinking, why don't I have more? I don't have no recollection of him whatsoever, zero.
Yeah.
And I think the name means nothing to me. I don't think I've ever seen him before. And it's only because I probably would have been looking at it internationally and probably, it must have been in the international news that I was looking at, certainly Australian news, but I don't remember it. But in some ways, because I am not close to it and I can look at it just a bit more objectively and go, I don't understand why we had all these police just sort of trailing him around town, like for all those hours. Like, not just, I understand why, but at what point was he just going to be allowed to drive around indefinitely? Like, I mean, it just went on and on and on. It was, you know, and the night before, it's not that he hadn't done anything. He'd stabbed his brother, tried to kill him.
Yep.
So surely that's ground enough. Just go, he should have been arrested. And who knew that he was behind Channel 9? He said that, or they said that, or who said that? If people knew who I was. I don't understand why there was this nicey game of, you know, following him around town. I don't get it.
There was also, as I reckon it's a bit of a perfect storm. There was a lot of high-speed chases, and I think there were a couple of incidents associated with that, which meant that the police were being told more and more not to engage.
I can understand that.
And this probably came at the peak of all of that. And I imagine now they would do something different. But at the time, I think, you know, that was literally just watch and observe and make sure nothing too bad happens until it's all too late.
It's too late.
So
there's also, for me, something about the notion of, I guess, the difference between enforcing law and protecting community versus effectively enabling a criminal to do whatever the hell they like, you know. Yeah.
It's not like he hadn't yet done something. That's what I don't understand.
I feel like
he had a massive rap sheet.
And then the night before it stabs him in the lung.
I feel like we've set our legal system to say, after they do the really heinous thing, we're going to say, oh, put them in jail because they're a danger to society. But there were so many, it's like the Minority Report, right? There were so many flags. There were so many opportunities to say, this guy is an escalating problem and he's an escalating danger to society. But I've had friends say to me, oh, I've got a stalker, you know, I've got these things. I've rung the police and they said, until he actually harms you, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
I understand that's the law and that's the position they take. But what we're going to wait for her to be dead before you then rock up and arrest him? When do we start to say there's enough There's enough evidence that this person's a danger to society or to people, whatever, that we're going to remove them for a period of time. And the reality is we have nowhere to remove them to. So you put them in a jail cell for a bit till they cool off. And then
or not even. In this instance,
but that's
not
my
even.
point about no institutions, right? There's nowhere to take them to anymore. We've cut that out of society. We've said it's community's job to do it. I know I feel like I sound really right wing, but this is a really serious issue. And this is one instance of it, but it happens in our society all the time. There are people who need to be sectioned. There are people who have mental health psychoses and breaks, and whether it's driven by drugs or whatever, for their own safety, they need to be somewhere safe. And I think we've taken away the safe harbours for society and for people who are victims of their own mental health.
I think even the point around, at what point can you intervene nowadays? This is something that is a decent length series of escalating crimes. It's not. It didn't all happen in 3 hours. It happened over the course of days, and he already had a horrendous rap sheet of 20 pages or whatever it was.
And to Carla's point, he tried to kill his brother. Why was he not picked up? His brother remembers having the knife all the way through his lung and the air escaping because he had a punctured lung.
Yeah, but he kept getting away. And I think there's an element of, as I said earlier, the protecting community at the expense of the crazed lunatic. And sure, we don't, to your point, Schmitty, we don't want the crazed lunatic out on the street. But if they are...
And if they've worked out that if I drive on the wrong side of the road or towards community, the police will back off.
He knows exactly what he's doing,
It's
I don't know.
Really frightening.
And if you think of, things like the police motto being protect and serve or whatever it is, and, law and order where the legal system does one bit and the police do the order bit, the police are there's no options for them.
Correct.
In a situation like this.
And the police didn't defund institutions, the government did.
Victoria sounds horrendous.
It's not that bad. But the government has taken cost-saving opportunities and said, we're not going to have these things, we're not going to have those things. We're going to push it out to care in the community. Why are we in this situation? Because we don't want to fund preventative measures. Because our government doesn't want to fund because it's expensive.
I don't think the Tourism Board of Victoria are going to be sponsoring us anytime soon.
No, they're not. But maybe they could help. Maybe we could advocate together.
Swanee, I think we could team up with the Victorian Tourism Board and do crime tours and go to all of these amazing places where
you've covered a few. I know
Victoria has let the community down.
It used to be like a 2-day tour. It's starting to turn into you can do a 4-week. It's like they're getting a lot of ground to cover. Put a lot of money into local economy.
And here we are months later, still going around.
You haven't even got to like the rural stuff, let alone going to Ned Kelly. It's like I don't need to do the Ned Kelly bolt-on. It's like we haven't got time to do the Ned Kelly bolt-on tour.
Exactly.
I know, we've got enough of our own shit to do with, like modern shit.
It's like just the Melbourne Metro tour lasts a week.
Yeah. There has been quite a bit, yeah. Sorry for any of our international listeners. I think, most livable city. It was, and it still is pretty good, but we do have, I think, some societal issues around putting the accountability where it needs to be. And while you're telling the story, yes, I'm angry about what he did, but he's a victim as well. He's a very, very unwell person that we did
I'm
nothing.
less comfortable with him being the victim.
And I understand that, but he is a victim in his own right.
Because the government are responsible for terrorism.
I can't.
Because the government are responsible for health. The government we have a public health system.
Kind of, but people have a role of, you have an opportunity to make your own decisions.
But what if your brain is so fucked that you have you're not really making decisions
because you methed the fuck out of it? Like, That's not a government issue to fund. That's, there are genuine victims in this story who are victims of his poor choices over a long period of time and his violent actions. And I can't come at him being called a victim.
I think he had mental health issues early on that weren't dealt with.
Or they were drug induced. He's got a brother who turned out nothing like him.
His brother doesn't have the same mental health issues.
But he's gone and done what he's done. I don't think he's a victim. I think he's he's almost a monster.
All right. Well, how shall you sentence him then, based on that?
I'm surprised 46 years after killing 6 people. That's not enough.
I've got a sentence for him.
Go on.
So for our friend who
not my friend,
murdered 6 people, injured 27 others, I'm going to send him to a Kew Cottages circa 1957 and see how he fares.
Swanee?
I'm not really comfortable with giving him a sort of a sentence. He scares me way too much. I don't even understand I've got an idea of what happened, but he just drove up and ran over people, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, he drove down Bourke Street Mall, which is a no car.
Yeah,
and
he would have continued to do it. Nothing was going to stop him until he was stopped, right? So correct. In terms of numbers, it's just who he got.
Yeah.
Yeah.
See, I mean, that's just madness. He's just out of control, and I don't know that there's anything that I could do or suggest that would have any impact on him. He's just.
I have an idea.
Loopy.
What if we sent him to what was the last person's name? Michael.
Dr. Michael Marino.
And Michael Marino replaces his
brain.
No, I'm thinking more like his leg bones.
With PVC pipe.
With PVC pipe, yeah. And so he's got no joints, and so he can't drive a car.
Could you replace them with slinkies instead?
Only
so he can't push an accelerator down.
But I think if you had PVC pipe and you have no joints and the knee bone is not connected to the leg bone or whatever it is, then it'd be pretty hard to drive a car. It'd basically be in a wheelchair, completely.
Do you know anything about him now, Clarky?
Oh, he's in jail, yeah.
Is there anything like there's no, is he...
I tried not to get.
Oh God, is he a model?
It's interesting. I tried not to get too into his victim status or his amazing redemption. It was more about the way I wanted to tell the story was more about, I guess, this article that I found that these 3 women had read, which was about what led up to to the massacre, because there is so much there that I just feel like everyone got wrong, and not as individuals. I don't want to criticize anyone who was involved in it, but when you stop enforcing and protecting the community, you do put them at risk, and
that was the price that was paid.
This is what happens. Yeah. So I also think there's an element of me that kind of goes, God, this is why people did lobotomies. He is just multiple times throughout his history, he's beaten women. It's
amazing that there are not more dead people, really. It's not for want of trying, right?
If we don't do something about him, he's going to continue to damage people and harm people. And lobotomies are probably one of the reasons we don't have mental asylums, because things that went on in those places were
horrendous.
Things to be proud of.
No, but I'm not saying let's replicate all of that.
I'm not saying you are. What I'm saying is that what I'm suggesting could happen to him is exactly the reason why there's no place for these people. But if you're someone who has to look after these people in jail, anywhere, you want to incapacitate him so that he can't do this stuff anymore.
Yes.
And so I think that's where the whole idea of a lobotomy came from. I don't know, but
I don't know why.
But I
That's
can
a good
understand
question.
why you would go, I don't want to kill him, but I just don't want him to be able to do this stuff
In a
anymore.
world
And
where you don't want to have a death penalty, then yeah, that's what you do.
yeah. Maybe Trial by Wine world needs an asylum world
Which is
where
not
you
a
can send
punishment. It's just a
people,
safe place for people who need help.
well, a place to
No.
get them off the streets to
Yeah, it's
stop
not a
them
safe place for people. I
committing
don't know.
future crimes. So you get them there before they.
It's sort of like, it's just the way that you position it that I'm not entirely comfortable with.
Putting people who are unwell in a safe place.
It's a.
I understand that why you want it to be.
No, I think more putting the rest of the community in a
In a
safe place
safe
by
place.
putting them into that.
Seclusion. It's so weird for me, as I said, like not being totally familiar with the story, but my assumption would have been that totally came out of the blue, right? So to have heard that tonight, that there was
I felt the same way.
I'm so shocked that there was that huge lead up, so many opportunities. I'm like, it wasn't a half hour, it wasn't an hour, it wasn't some.
He didn't just have a
no, he had actually.
What I thought
Yeah.
he did. He just had a a psychotic moment.
Didn't just break,
No.
and that was it. No. And that's what I think I'm really struggling with this story. I was like, I didn't know that. I wouldn't have been aware, let alone I'm really shocked about all that went beforehand and how many people's lives that would affect in their decision making on those days as well. That must have really screwed a lot of people up.
The episode of Narelle Fraser interviews that we listened to was talking about a bloke who was in Bourke Street on the day and went to help people, and he now has PTSD and can't work again and all kinds of things. And so it was all about the struggles that he'd had in being a part of that on that day. And he's one person, and there's a whole podcast about him. And there would be countless people like that who were impacted by these actions. And that's where I kind of go, God, if one person gets stopped from doing all of that, it's better to call that early than to allow that sort of a thing to play out.
All right. Well, that was a dark one, Clarky.
It's very heavy.
It's a lot, isn't it?
I know.
And we didn't even cover what happened to the victims in the mall. That's what's crazy about that. That's just how heavy that story is, right?
Yeah.
Oof. Well, on that note, as we say every week, miss you already.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao. Ciao.
Thanks for listening to Trial by Wine. You can contact us at trialbywine@gmail.com. Please rate, review and subscribe to Trial by Wine on Apple Podcasts or wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to support us, you can become a patron at www.patreon.com, Trial by Wine, or visit our website www.trialbywine.com to donate to us. Your support will help us cover many more cases and apply wacky sentences. We really appreciate you listening and hope you tell everyone about us. Our cover art is by John Christo and music is by Beauchamp from pixabay.com.